Welcome to another Dragonlance Saga Hangout. For some reason, I hit the wrong screen. I don't know who Donathan was, but it's not him anymore. I'm being joined today by Chris. How you doing, man?
Good, good. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me, man. I love this segment or this feature every week.
Yeah, I just jumped out of the shower. We had a hell of a morning over here. We've like all winter long, we've had these mice living in this shed that's attached to our home. And so today, it's like a beautiful day outside. I decided it was the perfect time to get it all cleaned out, get all that
Yeah, definitely.
mouse poop out and everything. And now I feel like I'm just like covered like Pigpen from Peanuts, but it's all just like mouse poop and stuff. So I jumped in the shower real quick. Thank you all so much for joining us. And woo, I'm still like, there's like diseases you can get from inhaling mouse poop. And I'm
That's
like,
true.
in my head, I'm thinking, how many of them did I get? Like I was wearing a mask, but still, ugh, gross.
You got to do the old 1800 solution. Get a few cats, just let them go nuts in there. You know.
Gosh, well, the cats around here don't seem to do a very good job. So we have like tons of like. Have you ever dealt with mice?
We actually had one under like a shed, and then we had a guy who had to like put like traps with peanut butter.
Oh, really?
And I was like, it's 2022. Like, is this really the best? I don't know what I was expecting. Radar or something, sonar to get about. I don't know what I was expecting, but apparently they still use old-fashioned traps with peanut butter. Who knew?
I'm in the lookout for like an Irishman with a whistle, like a flute. So if anyone knows any, like hook a brother up. All right. So how was your week? Did you have a good week?
Yeah, definitely. It was.
You think?
Yeah,
fun?
I mean, it was definitely fun. I got to see Dungeons and Dragons, which I got to talk to you about last weekend, which was awesome.
Nope.
It's still not doing great in the theater.
I just lost your audio. Can you hear me? Oh no, you're back. Nope, you're gone again. What?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
For the moment. And it's gone again. What is...
Oh my gosh.
Oh no, I don't know. Is it voice activated? Is that why you have to start talking for it to work?
I'm using the headphones. I was hoping that would help, but can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry about that. Yeah. So.
It's cut out.
Right,
Every time you start talking, it cuts out.
All right, try this without the.
You would think technology nowadays. Yeah, I got you. Maybe. No, I don't got you. You'd think it would be easier, but it's not. There's still just as many mess ups as if it was 2000. It's crazy. I think I can hear you clicking. Can you talk? Yeah, I can hear. I hear ambient sounds from you. All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in.
Is that any better?
Yeah, I got you now. Hopefully it stays. I can hear you breathing, so it's got to be working. Can you hear me? Usually I get on early. Okay, well, I don't know what's going on now. And we just test out technology and stuff to make sure things are working. But because of the mouse poop fiasco at my house, I can hear you if you can hear me. And if you can't hear me, then we're both in trouble. So anyway, while you're working on the technology stuff, let me thank the members of this channel and invite you to consider becoming a member by using the link in the description below. And always remind you can pick up Dragonlance gaming materials by using my affiliate links. So as soon as you get your side, start, like if you can hear me and stuff, go ahead and start talking and we'll start chiming in and stuff. But yeah, this past week has been pretty hectic for me. I have my wife's birthday, which happened, and that's like a nightmare in and of itself. And not a nightmare because, you want to celebrate your wife and stuff. And, ideally she's going to want to do something fun. But my wife didn't want to do anything. Literally did not want to do anything. I think part of it's we're just getting older. And part of it is she just doesn't really see birthdays as special. But it's like the day. It's the day for you. You know what I mean? So I was hoping that it looks like he's going to be calling me back here in just a second. So I was hoping it was going to be nice. I could take her out to dinner, maybe spend a little bit of time with her and the family. But it ended up with just her wanting to, see, I didn't even have time to have my screen fixed. just wanting to sit around the house. She didn't even want a cake. Normally I make her a birthday cake. This time she just wanted brownies. And so I made her some birthday brownies and like stacked them up as if it were a cake and put all the candles in it for her to blow out and stuff. But like, what do you guys do? Like after you get over that 44, 45-year hump, do birthdays have any meaning to you anymore? I got like this floating hair in here. Is it like, what do you guys like to do for your birthday? I'm curious because I like to be left alone as well. But for the sake of the family, I want to do like a nice dinner and birthday cake and do the happy birthday song and stuff like that. So I don't know. Birthdays and anniversaries and stuff after, like I've been married for well over 25 years. So like, it's just another day at some point. You know what I mean? Like, and birthdays after 18, then 21, who cares? So let's see if this one works this time. Wow, that is a loud Skype sound. How you doing? You there?
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry about that.
Hey, technology, what are you going to do?
Oh, yeah.
I am getting an echo. Like I can hear myself.
Let's see what we could do with that. Let's see.
Never, ever easy. All right, so when...
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting the...
Still an echo?
Test. Yep.
Still?
Yeah. Are there multiple mics that are turned on?
No, there's not. Oh, yeah. Let me check.
So, yeah, when my wife said she didn't want any birthday present at all for her birthday this past week, and that's a lie. Don't ever listen to anyone that says they don't want a present, because when you don't give them a present, they're going to be hurt, like emotionally distraught, which makes no sense because they're the ones that said it, right? But always get the present. And so I thought, I'd get her something that would help. We're going to be going down to Mexico here in a couple weeks, spend some time in Cabo and have hopefully a beautiful time, except like we're going to go with some friends and stuff, and it's going to be like a big to do. We've never been there before. We're going to see a bunch of Mayan ruins and stuff, and we're going to do like 90-minute jungle zip lines and stuff like that, which should be a blast, assuming everything works properly. And then I get her a present. Like I'm thinking like those new AirPods, so that you can enjoy like the flight, without having to have a cord or anything. That would be a nice gift.
Yeah.
But the whole time, like after she like unboxed them and thanked me and everything, she was just trying to get them to work in different, like fantastical ways that they're supposed to be able to work. And so it was like a job instead of a present for her, which is kind of messed up. So I just felt terrible. Is the weather over there doing good?
Yeah, it's been a little up and down. Like right now it's like 70 degrees, but it was like down to 40 and then up to 80 and stuff like that. So it's been a little bit back and forth. You guys still have snow on the ground by you?
Not where I am. I'm in the valley. Okay. Up in the mountains, there's a lot of snow still, like tons. But down here, it's 70 degrees out, which is why I wanted to get out and work on the yard a little bit and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was nice. I mean, I enjoyed it, and I want to go back out there. I wish I could take my whole computer and just set it outside, and that'd be great. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing one of these, like sitting on a deck, enjoying a glass of wine with the breeze and the dogs and the chickens and stuff. But I wouldn't be able to have a guest if I did that. And so I figure I'll do that for another time. When I don't have to worry about stuff. All right, so the bookmarks are here, and I think maybe next week is going to be the mail time unboxing of the bookmarks, but they look pretty dope.
That's cool.
Just grab one here, but I'm having problems. Like I used to have this whole website and stuff. Hey, C. Davis, thanks for tuning in. David, how you doing? Thanks for joining live. You were in Ohio yesterday, and your face got burnt. Yeah, man, spring is coming. I love it so much. Oh, I love spring and fall are my two favorites. Do you have favorite seasons?
My son loves winter because he loves, sled.
Oh, it just cut out. Yeah, your audio is cutting out, man.
Ah, jeez.
I don't get it. Does your camera just have a built-in mic that we could just use? I can't hear. You might have to select that microphone in Skype to get it to work. Okay. And hopefully that'll resolve the problem. 75 out there. Central Pennsylvania, is that PA? I remember my state codes, I swear. 75. God, I bet all your flowers are blooming. Oh man, I love spring. I love working on the yard. we have like flower beds all around our property and grapevines all over, and just starting our garden and stuff. My hops, I make beer, and so I grow my own hops, Sterling and Cascade, and they're both coming up like with a fury. Just coming, our asparagus is already sprouting up tall enough that we could cut it off and just cook it up and eat it. I mean, and it's barely even into the season, so I'm super stoked. Well, hopefully he comes back here in a minute. But yeah, the bookmarks look pretty good. I'm having a problem getting my credit card processing connected properly with my website, which is really frustrating because I used to do this all the time. Like it was just a normal thing. I had like a whole website store and it ran perfectly for international orders and everything. And now, for some reason, and maybe it's because it's the same account that I'm using for PayPal to process everything. Maybe that's why it's giving me a headache, but it's a nightmare, man. Oriel Pio. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's supposed to be spring in the Netherlands, but feels like autumn. That's not too bad, though. I mean, they're pretty close, right? Thanks for tuning in live, by the way. Grass needs cut also. It went barely no grass within a week already, almost 3 inches high. Yeah, man, I have my grass, my lawnmower set on the highest setting all the time, and I never bag my grass. I always mulch. This is super exciting for people who don't have yards. I love like mulching it down and have a nice thick layer of grass, because then when my chickens go like crawling through it, it looks like they're sort of like T-Rexes going through like some primordial, like field or something. Like you just see their heads and their chests bobbing up and down as they're scratching for bugs and stuff. And I have a little Shih Tzu dog. I have a wolf hybrid too, but my little Shih Tzu is so small she has to like leap through the grass. It's hilarious, and I just love it. It's wonderful. But yeah, chickens, they come from T-Rex, so they're little bastards, and they eat the mice too, which is great. I've never seen before I owned chickens, I never knew that I assumed they ate everything, right? But they literally eat everything. I mean, like mice. I mean, they're like seeing like whole packs of chickens running around the yard after one single chicken with a mouse in its beak. It's the best thing ever.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No problem. So you were talking about your son loving winter.
Yeah, and we didn't get a single inch of snow this year. So it was like nothing at all. So I promised him there's an indoor ski place in New Jersey at this mall. So I promised him we'll go there because it's just, literally nothing. My dad had...
So you just cut out again. What? I can hear you now. What state are you in? Man, this thing is cutting out. It's just frustrating. Last time we were having a problem with the internet connectivity. Now it's audio connectivity. I don't get it. Okay, so let's get into Shadow of the Dragon Queen, because I've been you've watched a couple of them, I think, or at least parts of some of them, and I've been running it for a while. What do you think of the campaign thus far? Like not our campaign, but just the game itself, the adventure. It's cutting. Oh man, this is not gonna work. I can't even get you to. It's weird that it just like stops working after a little bit, because I can hear you start talking and then just silence.
I'm trying some stuff.
Okay.
I'm trying some settings out.
Okay. So, for me, and let me know in the chat if you guys are watching the Shadow of the Dragon Queen. What do you guys think of that campaign? Whether it's the one that I'm running or someone else, what do you think of that adventure? I'm having some like problems with it. It sort of rushes past so many moments that should be impactful to sort of drive the characters to get new levels and go explore new things, that I feel like it's seriously missing out on some potentially really emotional moments that you could celebrate, I mean, the idea that you go from the entire city council being murdered in the last episode, spoiler alert if you haven't watched it, by Caradoc and Lord Soth, and then immediately you're supposed to just leave the city and go up north without ever dealing with the fallout from Calaman. Like, I feel like there should be moments in there, like interactions between Marshal Vendry and Darrett Hightower, and there should be more emotionally driven character interactions that you're prompted with in order not to feel like you're just constantly running through this maze of just hack and slash. It's really crazy. Hey, Shy, thanks for tuning in live. Yeah, it does feel a tad rushed, and it sort of bothers me. And I don't know if it's the mechanics of 5th edition or if it's just how they put adventures together and they just hope that DMs will sort of tamper it down and go at their own game's pace. But they don't even give you any suggestions. They just sort of set up the situation and then move on. And then I ran into a problem where if you're playing with the Warriors of Krynn board game, they skip from session 4 saying, hey, if you're going to go to Steel Springs, play session 4 of Warriors of Krynn for that. If you don't have the board game, just run through this adventure in this little part. And then on the next chapter, it skips to 7. So session 5 and 6 of Warriors of Krynn board game aren't even mentioned in the game at all in the adventure. So you have to figure out when to sort of fit them in if you want to run them at all. And the problem with it is if you don't run all of the Warriors of Krynn game sessions back to back, all the little mini adventures, then you're missing out on medals and awards of equipment and stuff like that that are going to be necessary for later sessions. And it's this crazy madness of just like rush and get everything doing really quick. And okay, that works fine. All right, Desert, thanks for tuning in live. Good to see you. He's going to be back here in just a second, and we'll see if we can get it working for you all. So the pacing of the adventure is wildly all over. It's just like, a mad dash to get through it almost. And then you start bringing in character interactions. And as a DM, I think it's really important not just to do the hack and slash, but to do the character development bits as well. And I've literally got like 8 people. All right, it says it's reconnecting here. I've got 8 people in my game that all can't join at one time. So at any one time, I'll always have at least 4 players. That's my goal anyway. So I can continue playing the adventure. But with 8 different players that pop in and out at random times, and I'm only playing it twice a month, every other week, I still can't have like consistent, people showing up consistently and always, being there and being ready and stuff. As a DM, trying to include NPC interactions and player involvement and backstory and development and growth and interaction, it's a damn nightmare. It's just impossible. And I never thought, and maybe this is why I stopped running games 20 years ago, because I never thought it would be this big of a pain in the ass just to have... Oh, wait a minute, that is so loud. Hey, hey, hey.
Is that any better?
Yeah.
All right.
It's infinitely better.
All right.
Let me
All right.
work on the aspect ratio here. Wow. You know what? We're just going to have to live with that because I can't...
You need the wide screen for me.
Yeah. Well, you'll do fine with this because it doesn't let me get any wider unless I zoom in on you. So...
It's sad that I'm becoming famous for this. I apologize. Colin's famous for bad rolls. I'm famous for this. It's upsetting.
for inconsistent connections. That's okay. That's life.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Dio is never neglected for so long, and now we have reasons to complain. It's a double-edged sword, honestly. That's a great point, Shy. Like, it's been, like, a decade since we have, like, really had a good Dragonlance experience of anything. It was novels then. And now that we actually have the 5th edition adventure, and if you're running through it, I mean, now you get to complain and sort of celebrate Dragonlance as well. And it's frustrating when you have players who just don't know who some of these characters are. So in my head, I'm geeking out when I run across Trap Springer or I run across what's that?
Sloth in this last one. That was awesome.
I mean, shit. Just some really great characters and moments, and other players just don't really connect with it because they just don't know Dragonlance like I do. Or maybe as obsessively as I do anyway, some of them. And so, it is a little bit like I kind of wish I was playing so I could sort of geek out, but then I have to run it. And like this last week's session, I thought we were going to blow through that whole Caradoc and Lord Soth situation really fast. And so I had planned out what is probably like 3 different sessions in the future just to make sure I had enough time if they wanted to do X, Y, or Z that I would be prepared for it. And we never even got past those 2 adventures. It was like perfect timing. Like at the 4-hour mark, which is my limit, we finished that little tail end part. And so I was just like, all right, well.
And I didn't feel like they went off on any like tangents. It just
didn't.
the way the way the roles worked, it just took longer than you expected.
Yeah.
So
well, I think the players did great. I think the players are always doing great. It's just that you never know how quickly an encounter is going to go, or how long it's going to take them to explore a specific area, or how long they want to interact with each other or the NPCs, and so you just don't know as a DM. So you have to plan in advance just in case. And then my mind is filled with all the stuff that I'm expecting them to get to, and we never do. So I'm just like, fuck, going crazy.
And then next time you have to like memorize it again, right? So that's being a DM is tough, and especially when running the channel and running the stream, and then the Roll20 aspect. Yeah, I give you credit. That's a lot of different aspects to take care of at one time.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, to be honest. It's a serious pain in the ass. Sometimes I don't know if I should do it anymore because it's that big of a pain in the tuchus. But are you enjoying the adventure?
Definitely. I thought like this last one was cool because even though I enjoyed Derek as a Kender, I thought anytime a character dies in 5e, first of all, it seems very rare. It seems like everyone is overpowered. Every time there's an attack on them, there's a reaction. There's this halves the damage. This blocks it entirely. It seems very tough to have anyone die, but yet in the last few sessions, you've had a few characters die, which I think is good. It adds to the the stakes and the consequences that are inherent to a good epic story. Yeah. So I'm actually really enjoying it. And this last one felt very Dragonlance-y. That's not a word, but it just I think I think the fact that Soth was involved, they did a dungeon crawl, which is like old school D&D to me. I really love. Yeah, I think every episode's getting better. I thought Colin was a great addition, and Janek, I'm sorry, she was doing great. Yeah, she's a great addition to it also.
Yeah, her name is Dana, and I played with her like 20 years ago. Not that long ago. It was like 15 years ago or something like that. It was a very long time ago anyway. And we played Star Wars role-playing game a lot together, and we played 3rd edition D&D and 4th edition D&D, just like generic places. I don't think I've ever played Dragonlance with her before, but she's a great player. She knows her character. She knows the rules. And so she's, she'll just fly through stuff. Whereas it does seem like every other player that I'm playing with, myself included, aren't 100% on all the rules. And so there's a lot of, does this work? Is this right? Is that wrong? And there's a lot of like back and forth, which drags the pacing of the game down. And if you're watching it, it just becomes frustrating because you're like, no, this is the rule. Just go forward. Just make shit up. And then when I do make stuff up on the fly, and if the players don't like it, then there's arguing back and forth. And it gets to a point where sometimes I just want to smack someone across the face, and just like, get the fuck out of my game. Like, I'm done. I'm tired of this. But then you got to realize that it's a back and forth. I'm as annoying to them at times as they may be to me in any given moment. So if you want to have fun, you just got to check your ego and just say, okay, we're going to run through it and we're going to have some fun.
I think that's inherent with 5e. There's just so many rules. I mean, you get so many multiple attacks, reactions, counter moves. I don't know all the terms, but it just seems like 5e is just, very, very time consuming for the actual, fighting aspect, the actual combat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it reminds me a lot of fourth edition D&D as well, where it's not as technical as 4th edition, because 4th edition is much more of a tactical game than it is a role-playing game, in my opinion, because it's all like top-down environmental board, setup. It's very, very much, you need a battle map to play 4th edition, or else you just can't do it, because everything is AoE and it's certain, radiuses and certain cone effects, and like everyone has different little bonuses that they throw at each other at any given time. And like with 5th edition, it still has a lot of those elements, but it's not as bad as 4th edition was. And I don't know, it's just, in some aspects, it's way too stripped down, in my opinion. There's not enough detail. And in other aspects, there's way too much detail. Like, when it comes to the world development, 5th edition is just like, whatever. You know, like the whole rope thing. It doesn't matter if you have a rope or not. There's no mechanic associated with having ropes. It's just like if the DM says, well, you need a rope to climb that wall, you better have a rope, and then you get your difficulty class. Otherwise, it's just like, just roll to see if you can climb the wall.
Yeah, I feel like the stealth rule is similar to that too. Like it was a character that wanted to do like stealth and sneak past someone, and you're like, well, they saw you, they're 5 feet in front of you, and it's daylight. You know, like I don't think you could sneak past, but they're like, no, my character sheet says I could do stealth. So there's a lot of that stuff too. Or I don't know if it was as thought out as it should be, or they just need to empower the DM to say, no, you can't sneak past him. He saw you. You know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that.
Well, I think a lot of stuff like that comes from other editions. So like 4th edition was very superhero-y. So if you stealth, you could just like phase out and stealth past people. But in 5th edition, it's a lot more like my remembering 1st and 2nd edition when it comes to stealth is that if you don't have concealment or cover, then they're just see you. You can't like phase into mist when they're staring at you. And as soon as one person says, ooh, I want to stealth, everyone else in the party is like, ooh, me too. And everyone's rolling stealth. And I have to be like, no, none of you can stealth past this. Like I mean, it was not this past game, but the game before that with the 2 skeletal knights, which ended up being wights, but they were supposed to be like Islamic knights standing on horses. And they were just like, we're going to sneak past them. How? It's an open courtyard. They're looking at you walking toward them. There's no cover for you to like get behind. How exactly do you think stealth works? And so I bring like just logic into it saying that's ridiculous. And they're bringing, well, on my paper, it says I can stealth and I have to roll this.
It sounds very Monty Python. I can just picture them like walking like this as everyone's watching them.
They just pick up like a bush, put it over their face and just walk by.
Exactly.
No one will see me. It's the most ridiculous. Like that, in my opinion, stealth and, what's the other one?
Flanking?
No, I'm okay with that. I guess it's stealth and hide, but they work in tandem together a bit. But it's the most ridiculous game mechanic ever. Like you have to be out of someone's perspective of view, like 100% in order to stealth. Period. If anyone can see you, then they just watch you sneaking and you're not being stealthy at all. Like stealth is just like, I'm being quiet.
Yeah.
And you can be as quiet as you want. If they can see you, it doesn't matter.
You know, it's another weird one. Sneak attack damage. Like it used to be in like 1st edition or 2nd edition. That was a cool thing that a thief would do where they had to backstab and you get triple the damage. Now it could be like a ranged attack and you could be like 60 feet away or something like that. It seems very odd, you know, how that could be sneak attack, you know?
That's hey, Skull Cowboy, thanks for tuning in live. Yeah, man, sneak attack damage is very, very strange as well. Just the way, I don't know, like, it's empowering because it makes a rogue much more useful, or actually useful in a combat encounter, because otherwise rogues, in my opinion, are completely useless in 5th edition. Like, the great thing about old school rogues was that, you know, assassination and stuff, they could do incredible things like climb up walls better than anyone else, and they can sneak by people better than anyone else. But now everyone has access to skills, whether they're proficient or not. It just means they're better at them than anyone else. So it doesn't seem like rogues have anything special that anyone else can't do except for that backstab damage. And I just don't think that's enough for them.
Yeah, that's true. There's not a lot of lockpicking too in 5th edition, it seems like.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Or
traps.
There are certainly traps and stuff like that. Like I was expecting them. I loved it when they're like, "Hey, I'm going to check this door for traps." When last night's game, I thought that was great, but there was nothing set up at all in the campaign, and I didn't want to start adding obstacles and sort of bogging up the narrative at all. But now that there wasn't any, next time they're in one and there is a trap, are they going to think about that? Are they going to think, well, there wasn't one last time, so I'm just going to move forward? And I think that's the biggest problem about playing these games in general, but specifically 5th edition, is that everything is hyper focused on the sheet, on the character sheet, that you as a player only think in terms of the character sheet. And what you should be thinking of what is going on in the game with your character, not what your character can do based on a piece of paper. So it always has driven me crazy. So like the reason why when they did the Wheel Watch Outpost, only the druid went up to sort of climb the wall was because they thought that only he could sneak up and do that. But there's so many ways to get other people inside Wheel Watch Outpost. Like they had already taken down a bunch of Dragon Army soldiers with Dragon Army armor on that they could have then stripped off, taken that, and used it to just walk right up to the front gate. But it's like little things like that. And I don't blame the players because it's just the mechanics of the game and the adventure that's set up that most players are thinking in terms of what's the next thing and not stopping and thinking in the moment. And another great example of that is, I was delivering a monologue from this Nidus Solamnia spirit that is germane to the entire point of this adventure. Like it is like that one monologue explains everything about this adventure. And if you didn't listen to it, then you have no idea what you're doing next or where you're supposed to be headed. And it turned out only one person was listening.
I noticed
so
that.
Thank you, Dana. Because everyone else, they're just like, I don't know what was the name of that city? Like when an NPC is delivering a monologue, there's a reason, and you should be paying attention and making notes. And that's the other thing that has always driven me crazy. No one takes notes anymore. Like I don't understand the idea of not taking notes. Hi, whoever you were waving at.
Sorry,
it's okay. So anyway.
Right. But I want to say one thing that's really cool about this campaign, The Shadow of the Dragon Queen, whether this was intentional or not, I wrote down there have been 14 characters and 8 human players. So Marek, Bendix, Arjun, Finn, Ulrich, Galabran, Eric, Scab, Charles, Sven, Janik, Pan, Claritin, and now Torgen. Wow. I just think that's awesome because it really gives it like an epic scale that you have all these people contributing. Because if it's a world war, or at least Ansalon, it's supposed to have that scope. So I think the fact that you have 14 different characters all contributing to one story is really cool. So I love that aspect about this. Yeah.
That's true. And yeah, I mean, that's partially out of necessity of just having enough players to actually play the damn game because no one can seem to get together to play. But it also makes it really
part of it, know?
Yeah.
They feel like a lot of people feel they're contributing to an overall storyline, which is cool.
Yeah, I wish Merrick would come back. I really liked that character. I thought we had a great setup, but life just got in the way. So I mean, he's always welcome back, and I would love to play with that character again. The overall story of the campaign, I think, is great. I'm hoping that the players are really keying into it because we just went through a part that was, like, again, it was the point of the whole campaign that was delivered. So I hope that they were paying attention because otherwise you're not playing an adventure, you're just playing encounters. And that, to me, is just not fun at all.
Well, that's a cool aspect of the live stream is they could always watch it back and then pretend that they had paid attention the first time.
Yeah. I have a hard time watching the games back. I can't. Well, first of all, let me just say, YouTube ads are insane. Like, I let them auto-populate ads after the stream has been live. And so I went back to yesterday's game, and I looked at the midstream ads, and there was like 15 of them minutes apart. Just back to back to back to back to back. Tons of ads. So I deleted all of them, and I put them up at like 20-minute increments. There'd be, an ad every 20 minutes, and that's it. It's just like, why do they do that? Like, it makes people not want to watch the stream if all they're getting constantly is bombarded with stupid ads.
Right. That's true.
I think I'm going to have to just turn off the midstream ads until the video is rendered, and then I can go in and manually add them if I want to. Because it's making it so people just aren't watching, which sucks. Because the only reason I'm doing this live is because I want people to watch it.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you played a Pathfinder group years where most of the people involved would trash 5e overall. You think 5e has grown the game in large amounts. I don't think 5e has grown it at all. So I disagree with you there, which is okay. We don't have to agree. I think cultural zeitgeists have driven the popularity of Dungeons and Dragons. So I think Critical Role and actors coming out and admitting that they're D&D players, and the fact that nerdy stuff like superheroes is now normal and cool, and I think that is what makes it more popular than the edition, because the edition is garbage. It's straight up garbage. I hate 5th edition so much. And it's just, part of it's probably because I just don't know it all that well. I mean, at this point I can run it, and it's not like it's a big deal. It's just that I don't know. There's something about it. To your point, you were saying that I've heard this over and over and over again. It is impossible to kill people in 5th edition. And I've killed 3 people, almost 4 in the past 2 games. And I'm not even trying. Like, that's just by accident. So
you're definitely hurting that argument. Yeah.
So I don't know if you can really believe that argument anymore or not, but they do have infinitely more options of healing themselves. And so I have to ask the question, am I forcing them in more of a dangerous position, or is the module just more difficult, or are the players not playing their characters to the not the best of their ability, but the best of the character's options? You know, like Dungeons and Dragons is built around the idea of a team and a team dynamic, not a solo hero. And I think most players think of themselves in terms of, this is my character, what is my character going to do next, rather than how can my character complement what everyone else is doing, and how can we work together to overcome the scenario. And I have to go back to that Wheel Watch Outpost episode as a perfect example of that, where it was individual character driven, not team driven. And, you know, I think in this last session, when we were facing off against Caradoc, it was much more of a team dynamic. And I like that. I thought it worked out great. But yeah, I mean, you just, with different play styles, it ends up being very, very strange and all over the place sometimes.
Yeah. I'm happy, though, to see that this Shadow of the Dragon Queen campaign has really caught on with people who are not Dragonlance fans. I really feel like this is helping to grow, you know, the setting that I love, obviously, that you love. There were a few that I noticed that are playing it. Dork Tales, D20 Play, Ox Venture. There's a lot of people who are not Dragonlance fans who, you know, seem to be getting into it. So it's tough that this module is representing all of, you know, Dragonlance, because there's so many better ones, you know, like the original modules I feel are superior, and you know, the fifth age I think were really good too. But at least it's getting the name out there. It's getting invested, so I'm happy from that standpoint.
Yeah, and that leads into what I want to talk about in the second half of this episode, of which, I mean, we're already like more than halfway through, but why Dragonlance isn't as well known as some other IPs, which kind of blows my mind considering the vast scope of just novels, and then the amount of modules and box sets and, you know, stuff that it seems like every D&D person knows of Dragonlance, but not every D&D player knows Dragonlance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, let's move on from Shadow of the Dragon Queen, and let's talk about that. Why do you think Dragonlance isn't as well known as Forgotten Realms or Ravenloft, or, you know, any other Tolkien property or anything?
I have a few theories on it. The first one I think is that like Forgotten Realms is more generic. Mm-hmm. And I feel like you could be anything. You know, it's not restricted that I feel like some people perceive Dragonlance to be. Obviously, Shadow of the Dragon Queen is trying to, you know, do away with some of those restrictions. But, you know, Dragonlance, you couldn't have like healing magic in the beginning. There were no orcs. There were no halflings. It just seemed like there was a lot of rules with the, you know, magic users. It just seemed to, in people's perception, I think that it was more restrictive, and Forgotten Realms was everything to all people. So it was just an easier way to start, you know? I think that's one reason.
That makes sense. Yeah, it kind of drives me crazy because Dragonlance was first, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like hugely popular when it came on the scene initially, because it sort of broke ground that hadn't really been explored before with Dungeons and Dragons, and certainly not the way that Dragonlance did. And then as soon as first edition cut off, it was this sort of vacuum, and, you know, that's when Forgotten Realms started coming in first edition, and really started picking up. So when they started second edition, they really sort of leaned forward. They totally almost ignored Greyhawk. They just, without Gygax around, they just pushed forward with Forgotten Realms as like the default setting, it seems.
Exactly.
So Skull Cowboy saying Dragonlance is not pushed as the others, and it's very much its own world, almost its own game. And it literally was with the Saga system. So,
yeah,
that's another reason I could totally see why people were just like, nah, I'm not going to learn another game just to play this setting in.
right. But I like some restrictions. I feel like creatively, if someone told you to like write a short story and they didn't give you any parameters, it would take you like a while to try to think of something. But if someone said, write a short story specifically about a dragon and a dungeon or whatever the restrictions are, parameters are, I feel like that helps your creativity. It helps focus you. So I kind of like that Dragonlance was a little more restricted. I feel that that's a benefit, not an obstacle.
I'm with you there too. And I mean, that extends to my professional career as well. I mean, when it comes to graphic design, you have a client coming to you saying, I need a logo. If they don't tell you anything else other than I need a logo or I need an ad, you're sort of like pulling your hair out. Like, am I designing a whole new campaign? Do you have any brand standards? Are there fonts that you use, colors that are brand specific? Like, you just don't know anything. But if they say, no, I need an ad about this that's speaking to this target demographic with these elements, and you're like, okay, well then no problem. I can knock that out. And you can really come up with some great variations on theme.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, restrictions actually, as you had said, promote creativity. It forces you to then project out of specific avenues rather than just being totally open and sort of just floating in space, kicking your arms and legs. And I like that too. Trees agrees. You feel restrictions are important. It helps the setting. Engine, how you doing, man? It was the hardest pill you ever had to swallow when you found out second edition wasn't really followed by Mark and Tracy. Yeah. I mean, they had nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons, Dragonlance after first edition at all until third edition. And then it was only Margaret and Tracy came in just a cameo for a book or two, like a game book or two. But yeah, I mean, it was very, very touch and go with them. Forgotten Realms is a sandbox. You feel that some restrictions, but 4E and 5E especially has become completely dumping ground for everything. Honestly, it doesn't even feel like what it was. I agree with that as well. And I think ultimately the problem is the developers of Dungeons and Dragons are trying to give all options to all people. And on paper, that sounds great. But when it comes to actually mechanically playing a setting, you're just sort of like, well, that doesn't fit with this setting. That doesn't make sense here or there. There are rules, histories, and regional conflicts, and like there's, it just doesn't, you can't just dump anything into it and expect it to be logical. And the only way to get through that is to not play in a setting. And I think that's really what modern Dungeons and Dragons is pushing toward, is not playing in a setting or changing the setting so much that they don't really feel like the setting anymore.
Right. Any class can do anything, like you mentioned before. Yeah. So I think that's a factor. I also think some of the video games that came out at a time when a lot of players now were younger and more, susceptible to influence, like Neverwinter Nights and Baldur's Gate.
Mm-hmm.
Those were both Forgotten Realms. I think that was a big factor too, that increased Forgotten Realms popularity. Had those been Dragonlance, which would have been amazing, I think that would have really helped. So I think that's a factor too. And I think also like the Fifth Age, I think that really turned off a lot of players. I disagree. I loved it. I love the campaign that you ran on this channel. It was so much fun. But I think that turned off a lot of players, and those players might have moved on to Forgotten Realms, and then they might have introduced other people who were new to D&D, who then were first exposed to Forgotten Realms through those people who were disenchanted with Dragonlance. So it's like a trickle-down effect. You know what I mean? So I think that's a factor too. I think Fifth Age kind of hurt some people.
Yeah. Well, it definitely split the Dragonlance fan base. Like, it definitely did. Everyone I always talk to has very strong opinions about Fifth Age. And what can you do? I mean, the thing is like, if you really just want to play a 5th edition, almost anything goes campaign, post War of Souls 5th edition is it. 5th
Yeah.
age is it. Like Dragonlance, you can do almost anything there. You know, whether it's your warlocks, your sorcerers, your tinker gnomes, your kender that are afflicted or normal, your gnomes that are sort of mad or, you know, actually successful inventors. You can have other planar creatures coming in, and it's not as crazy as if it was in the established timeline where everything has already been fleshed out and sort of confined. I mean, or you could go way early in the sort of early, you know, Age of Starbirth era, where Krynn was initially populated before the gods really started putting restrictions on things. And then you could explore some really interesting ideas and sort of settings and stuff too. Like there was a whole Bakali nation, like the kingdom that existed until the dragons came around and like subjugated them. Like that's an era that seems very interesting if you want to play like a crazy human ogre sort of elven adventure, and you're sort of there. This Bakali lizard people culture is trying to sacrifice you, or you know, if you want to go into the 5th age and ogres are hunting down elves to use to create ogre titans, and so they're like bleeding out elves and stuff. I mean, there's just so many cool little things that you could explore throughout the ages with Dragonlance that I guess understandably, because there's so many ages and so much history and so many options through the eras and restrictions through the eras, it might be too much for the casual Dragonlance fan to step into and say, okay, what era is this again? Which cataclysm is it? Is it before? How long before? And it can get confusing and stuff. But that's what my channel is for, so watch videos. I don't know. Let's see. Engine 5th Age has good ideas, but problem was WotC pump and dump with every campaign, and love completely irrelevant when they put out a new edition. Yeah, it definitely felt like that with the novels. Oriole Pio, did you use the 5th edition character variants in Shadow Dragon Queen, or did you tweak them more old school? What I like to do is use the edition as written so that you can get a really solid understanding of, does this adventure really work? You know, is the game fun? And so I'm trying to make no variations at all on theme. I'm trying to keep it as Dragonlance as possible, as presented in 5th edition. So I didn't use Dragonlance Nexus's compendium to, you know, adjust anything. I didn't use I can't remember what the other Dragonlance one is called, but I didn't use that one either.
Dragonlance Companion, I think.
Companion.
And then, Taz's Pouches of Everything revised. Yeah. I think those were the two. Yeah.
Yeah, so I stayed away from those intentionally because I wanted a true 5th edition feel, so that I could make an honest judgment on whether or not this is a good adventure and a good game system. Otherwise, you know, if I'm just going to be running 5th edition, then I'll customize it to the end of the world. But I'm not. I ran Saga, now I'm running 5th edition, and then I'm going to go back to my love, which is 1st and 2nd edition. And then, you know, I'll just play those games because I don't have to super customize them to make it feel like Dragonlance. They are Dragonlance, you know?
Yeah. No, I think that's a good idea to do it that way. This way you could get a real evaluation of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think another part of this is that there's just too many. There's too many settings, too many fantasy worlds to play Dungeons and Dragons in. So many so that players usually just default to, they may say it's in Forgotten Realms or whatever, but it's just prime material plane. You know, they're just like, I'm just going to make it my own world, and this is going to be it. We're just going to do whatever we want because we don't want to be restricted by a setting, which is totally fair, and I get it. And I actually like that more than adjusting Dragonlance. Excuse me, that was gross. I just totally burped in the mic. Than adjusting Dragonlance to fit a certain edition or to fit a campaign because you just have a player who really wants to play a tiefling or a fuzzy bunny or something, you know?
Right.
That's something that I've never understood either. Why are you trying to bring something into a setting that clearly does not fit that setting? Like, I just don't get that. It's like players wanting to play Draconians in War of the Lance era in a good character campaign. No, but I'm a good Draconian. I'm a noble Draconian. No, that didn't exist at the beginning of that. You're trying to bring a monster into a heroic campaign that is based around the concept of good versus evil.
Yeah. And you'll hear, like, a lot of times someone will want to play, like, a black mage along with a Knight of Solamnia.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that doesn't work, you know?
Yeah. I feel like the beginning of every campaign planning when it's like me talking to players and stuff. It's just me dashing dreams. It's just because they're all like, I want to play Raisel Majir. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, you can't. First of all, this is he's in Banasinia and we're in Salamnia. Second of all, you can't have a black robed character that would willingly go with all of these other people and have these other people enjoy that company if he did go with them.
Right.
It would just be nothing but conflict the entire game. And that's interesting for a novel, not so fun in a game.
Yeah. I agree.
I think ultimately that is the biggest problem with Dragonlance as well, is that because there's novels, people think, I want to play the novel. You know, I don't want to play the game. I want to play the novel. I want to play my favorite character in the novel, and I want to do everything that they did in the novel in the game.
Yeah.
So you're taking authority away from yourself before you even start.
I think that's a big issue with the original modules, because they mimic the books, and they go, you know, step and step with the books, with the novels. I think that's tough, because if you're in a similar situation with, you know, you're going to want to do what they did in the novel, and that takes away some of the fun, I think, of playing the modules. You know, I think that's a big problem with those particularly. That's what's great about Shadow of the Dragon Queen, is it's kind of original, so you don't have to worry about, you know, trying to match what someone else did or what the books did. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. So Horrific Podcast, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Just out of interest, has there been a dark side version of the game? Well, because it is a good versus evil game, there is an incredibly interesting dark side. You know, all of the evil dragon armies, or the dragon overlords, or any of the evil forces that have, you know, risen up, whether it's the Minotaur nations, the Tarmac nation. So there's definitely intriguing evil adventure opportunity, but it's all, you have to design the games yourself, because the way that the adventures work is the adventures are all set up for good guys to overcome bad guys. I've done a Dragonlance in 2nd edition where we were evil guys. I had a priest of Chemish who walked around with a scythe like the Grim Reaper, and he was just a super cool character that I love desperately. The problem with those sort of bad guy adventures is they get boring really quick. You know, you're going around killing people, stabbing people in the back. You know, the most interesting bad guy characters are ones that follow their own code. They don't see themselves as bad. They see themselves as self-involved. They're making choices based on their own self-interest, not because they want to be evil, you know? And so they're not going around slaying babies for no reason. They actually are doing things. Like Kitty R is a perfect example.
I was just going to say Kitty R. Yeah.
I just yanked out my cord. What other characters do you think would be a great bad guy character to play that's not overly like sort of snidely whiplash, twirling your mustache?
Yeah. From the novels?
From whatever.
I think Steel was a really interesting character.
Yeah.
He's not really, you know, good or bad, but I like characters that have like conflict like that. Mm-hmm. I think that would be pretty cool.
Steel was a great character. Not only did he have this like, he grew up knowing that he wanted to be a Knight of Takhisis. Like, that is who and what he wanted to be and do. And to his death, that's exactly what he devoted his whole life to. But he knew where he came from, his father's side. He knew that there was something, and that's the great thing about Knights of Takhisis, is they had that sense initially. They had that sense of honor that they took from the Knights of Salamnia. And so it made him a very interesting bad guy organization to be a part of. Whether you're a sorcerer, a cleric, or a fighter, you felt like you had a really great bad guy purpose. With the dragon armies, a little tougher.
Yeah.
You know, to find that interest. You know, you have characters like Verminard, who would be cool, except that they are just so powerful and up there that, you know, the first out priest of any god as the bad guy and descendant of Huma Dragonbane himself. I mean, that's a lot to live up to as a character. You have Erikin, who is like sort of the leader, but even he was not very good. Like, as far as like characters go, he just kill people for no reason. So it's not very interesting from a player standpoint.
Right.
Kitty R has got to be the best.
That's a great example. Dalamar comes to mind. That would be kind of interesting. But I still think Kitty R wins it. Yeah.
Yeah, Dalamar
you could play sneaky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I like about Dalamar and Kitiara is that they weren't so overly powerful evil. Like Graceland, for example, he really went overboard and like killing gods and stuff. Like, come on, that's a little
Yeah.
that's a little too maniacal for anyone. Like, you're ambitious, but that's a little too ambitious. So
Yeah.
as like a player trying to live up to that,
Yeah.
no way. There's no way you would do it. Because first of all, most of his life is spent in study, not adventuring. So how fun is that? Just studying for as all your friends are out leveling up and doing stuff, you're just like researching fist analysis spells, and it's fucking boring. Yeah, so like I don't know, I think what other characters would be good bad guy characters?
What I like about Dalamar is that even though he did things that were evil, there was always like a reason. Like, it wasn't gratuitous. He didn't do things just because, like, oh, it'll be fun to kill this guy for no reason. Like, everything had like a purpose. He was very methodical and he thought things through. And I think that would be a fun character to play because it gives you purpose without just randomly just killing villagers,
Yeah, for sure. We're going to be meeting him in the next game session. A little spoiler alert.
Oh, cool.
It'll be very, very neat. I mean, it's before he's the Dalamar we know. But yeah, he does cameo. Let me think. Yeah, so I ultimately, to answer your question, is yes, you can definitely play. It's just the story has to be there. The players have to be on par with, having a bad guy centered campaign. And it's like with any adventure, I mean, it has to be put together logically so that characters will logically go through it. Otherwise, you're just ham-fisting, railroading them, and it's not fun for anyone,
Yeah.
And that's the worst part about being a DM, I think, is you have to know your players, and you have to give your players freedom. And if you don't have consistent playing players, that's impossible to build a campaign around. Oh, it's so frustrating.
Are you having fun though? Are you having fun running it? I hope, because it's a fun campaign to watch.
I'm having fun interacting with some of the players.
Okay,
I'll say that. I couldn't watch it back at all. It would drive me insane. Choices that I make, choices players make, I couldn't relive it because in the moment I'm just sort of firing on all cylinders. And quite frankly, I don't think it's a very compelling story. I like the depth of history that the story is delivering, but the only way that becomes really interesting is if the players engage with it. Because if they don't, then it's just frosting. It's just surface level BS, and no one really cares about that. They just want to go to the next adventure. Let's go to the next encounter. Let's kill something else. And that's not really Dragonlance to me.
Okay.
So I don't know. It is when the players really dig in, and I'm fortunate to have some really, really fantastic players. It's not interesting when it's just hack and slash and move on to the next. I love inter-character dynamics. I love having back and forth between. I just like storytelling, and when you're just going from combat encounter to combat encounter, it's not a story. You might as well be playing a video game, and that's just go play a video game. Don't play D&D. That doesn't make any sense. Which is ironic because that's really how everyone get cut into D&D is dungeon crawling and hack and slash. Like, that's all it was at the beginning. You're lucky you're coming to D&D from other systems. It's giving you an appreciation for the role-playing aspect. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you. I mean, like, systems like Call of Cthulhu are pure role-playing, almost by necessity. And so, or the World of Darkness games, those force you to think in terms of role-playing rather than hack and slash. And Dungeons & Dragons is built from the ground up to be a mechanically hack and slash game, and it's incumbent on the players and the DM to change that. At least that's how I've perceived it. Thus far.
I think players should be in the mindset sometimes. I'm not a good player myself, but
you are.
I just think that players should be in the mindset of don't necessarily do the action that's going to cause the most damage to the enemy. Do the action that like makes sense for your character.
Yeah.
So in other words, like if there's one action that consistently gets more damage than another, and you just keep doing that same action over and over, it's repetitive. Like maybe a character doesn't necessarily go and hit the guy over the head with the sword each time. Maybe sometimes he tries to grapple him, or he tries to like throw something at him, or you know, it's just something to like mix up the action so it's not the same button over, you know, every time.
100%.
It's a
Yeah.
thought.
Meet the tavern, go to the dungeon, kill the monster, get the treasure, rinse and repeat. That is how most people consider D&D. You're absolutely right, and it's a trope for a reason. You know, that's what it's presented as in every video game version of it. That's how it's presented. You want to go on an adventure? Go to the tavern. You'll find out. And I think that sucks. That's limiting, and it oversimplifies something that has the potential to be like genuinely meaningful. And I don't want to like overplay that idea of importance of interaction and storytelling between human beings, but it's what we've been doing from the dawn of time, and it's an action that human beings have found connection with each other through, is shared storytelling, whether you're telling your own histories, legends and myths that your culture connects with, whether you're manufacturing fictional ideas like that if there's one thing that makes humans over every other animal and plant that populates this planet, it's storytelling and sharing that experience. And so that makes it, to me, as someone who's just sort of obsessed about stuff like that, really, really important. And so when you cut off the storytelling aspect of it and you just focus on the encounter aspect of it, it's not fun. It's the worst experience ever, because then you're only dealing with people who want to hyper maximize character damage, DPS points, and character builds, and make sure everything is as powerful as possible so you can get through encounters as quickly as possible. I don't want that player in my game. That's the worst type of person on the planet. That sucks. Like, I want that person working on a rocket ship that's going to go to Mars. That's what I want them doing.
Yeah.
Don't want them in my game. That's just
But
me.
I feel like the players you have now, like the personalities of the characters are coming out. I think they're doing a good job with that. Yeah.
Like I say, as much as I complain about the game, I'm very fortunate that I have really, I mean, you were included. I've had the opportunity of playing with really great players where they really want to get into their characters. They're, maybe they're inspired by my sort of insistence on NPC interaction, or maybe they just like the setting, or maybe they just really enjoy that aspect of it as well. But for whatever reason, all the players that I've been able to play with thus far have been really, really great. And again, I may flippantly say something that's like, I get frustrated about one certain thing or not, but in the grand scheme of things, I couldn't be happier. I've been in games where I've been ultimately unhappy and I've hated every second of it. I only continued it because they were my friends. But in this, I don't have to continue any of this. I can just stop it all tomorrow. I just delete the channel tomorrow. It doesn't matter to me. I'm doing it because I'm having fun. You know what I mean? And so I'm lucky that I have access to a player base that are creative, that are skilled in character development, and actually want to engage in a story rather than just encounters. So I hope none of them ever watch this back and say, Adam's always complaining about the game. He's such a piece of shit DM, and he doesn't appreciate everything I do. No, I genuinely do. I just like to bitch and moan. So please understand that I love all the players for who they are and how they're playing the game. But I do have to fill time talking, so sometimes I have to talk shit.
I felt very lucky, getting to meet you and Colin and Derek and Ashley Goldmoon.
She's great.
That was a tremendous group, and the players in this campaign seem to be really good. That's pretty cool for like total randomness. Like the only connection we have is this love of the setting. It could have gone really badly or really poorly. And I've played in a few games with people, like you said, that aren't playing the right way, or you're just not enjoying their company and stuff like that. And I had the best experience, and it seems like you've had a really good success rate.
Yeah.
Good people. And I encourage people who are watching now, become a member, like get involved in some of these games. It's so much fun to have someone who's experienced, who knows the setting like you, Adam, run this, do all this work. I was one of the people watching at home. I was late to the channel. I was like 7 months after you started it. And I was just watching. It's like, man, that looks like a lot of fun, watching the XD system, that gameplay. I was like, man, that looks like so much fun. And then I got to do it. And so people watching, like, get involved. It's It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a good time. And I think I'm lucky because I think all of us are lucky because we're fans of this setting, and that encourages the type of playing D&D that we like, which is the story driven, which is what Dragonlance is. It's story driven, character driven storytelling. And that's it. It's just so much more fun and satisfying in the end of the day, you know, at the end, whether your character dies or whether they go out heroically, you know, whatever it is, you feel like you accomplished something at the end of the day, you know, like it had meaning to the other players, to the NPCs, like everything is connected together in that world, you know, and it's not meaning connected as in everyone's like loving each other and cares about each other. No, sometimes you dramatically hate NPCs, but their deaths will have an impact. You know, I mean,
Yes.
when Kitiara eats it, everyone's just like, oh my gosh, no! Like, no one really loved her because she did a lot of really bad things. We like her because she's a bad character and people like to cheer for bad guys, myself included. But you still didn't want her to die, you know? Like when Raceland met his end 87 different times, seemingly. Every time you're just like, no! And then when Tasslehoff meets his end 87 different times, you're like, no, not you! So, you know, whether you like the characters or not, everything they do has impact, and it affects you throughout the course of the story that's being told. And that's why Dragonlance is great. Oh, that was like the cheesy, like, yeah. I feel like we should both jump in the air and it should just freeze as we're like mid-jump. All right, well, we're past the hour from what I was planning on doing. You're doing Dragonlance video game content right now. It's what you started on YouTube, so it's all full circle. Oh, cool. Well, go check out Engine Joe's channel and look at the video games he's running through. Is it the old silver and gold box games that you're running? Let me know. Embrace the low rolls, laugh, and just bring it to the story. Hell yes, horrific podcast. That is exactly what you got to do. That's what I love. You like to play it as Lay's scenario where everything is randomized and you play it to the bone. The DM tells you to play an elf, you play it. Yeah, I do like that aspect of it too. And that's what first edition really encouraged. At least the way I played it, is your roles dictated the character that you could actually play. And
right.
And that's it. Like, there's just no other option. So if you rolled really great and you wanted a fighter, but your rolls only match a mage, well, roll another character or play that damn mage, you know, and just try to play him the best of your ability. And
sometimes those lead to the best characters too.
100%.
I think that happened in the Saga system. I think I wanted to play like an elf fighter.
Yeah.
And then all the cards, I guess, were skewing towards a Kender.
Yeah.
And then I ended up, that was my favorite character I think I ever played, was the Kender who wanted to be a knight.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just, you got to roll with it, like you said.
Yeah, that's what's another really good thing about 5th edition or Saga system that I really appreciate is that with that aspect, it is very much like 1st edition, where the cards you're dealt are what your character is, and you just have to sort of figure out what that means. So, you know, it is very much like you're born, and you're stuck with what you're born with. You know, you can adjust your abilities a little bit, and you can enhance them through practice and exercise and stuff like that, but you have a genetic cap, and that's what your cards are telling you, or that's what your dice are telling you. And I really appreciate that personally.
It's just like real life. Do you think I wanted to be 5'7" and overweight? You got to work with what you got.
You know, I really appreciate your interaction with the channel, man, and you know, just coming on here and just sort of riffing and stuff. I really do appreciate that.
Thank you, man. I'm so appreciative of this channel and all the work that you do to make it fun. It's a lot of work DMing and running everything, and I really appreciate it. So thankful to have this channel. It's my favorite by far. Yeah.
Well, it is fun, and it is one of those things. I need to make sure I prep everyone emotionally here because I won't be doing this forever. You know what I mean? Like, I have other things that I'm interested in exploring, other game systems I want to play and stuff. So, like, for example, with the Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen campaign, I'm going to be pausing that in probably September so that I can run the 2nd edition Knights of the Black Rose Ravenloft adventure for September and October, hopefully every weekend, so that we can just try to get through that module. But, like, you know, I'm going to be stopping adventures and going in other directions, and I'll pick them back up and sort of weave around. And as soon as I'm done with Shadows of the Dragon Queen, I'm probably never going to play 5th edition again, and I'm going to go back to 1st edition, play the original modules, and who knows if I'll ever get through those. And again, if my professional life changes the pacing or requirements, then I'm not going to be able to do the stuff that I'm doing right now. I'm in this really fortunate position where my workload is aggressive enough to keep me working, but not so much that I'm working tons of overtime. And so I can do stuff like this. But if that changes, this ends. So it is one of those things where
I speak for everyone who's watching. It's no problem. Just 30, 40 more years, and then we can stop. We're fine with that.
Right. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Chris, again, thank you so much for joining me on this hangout. I really love chatting with you about this stuff and all the other goofy stuff we get to chat about. And I hope you do join a game in the future. I would have liked to have you in this one, if you were available when we were setting it up. I think that would have been a lot of fun. But yeah, if you guys watching this, what do you enjoy least about actual play Dungeons and Dragons games, about like watching Dungeons and Dragons games? What is it you like least? Is it choices characters make? Is it players and DMs not knowing the rules like you know them? Is it just the technical aspects of it? Like, let me know what you like least. That might help inform me on how I can make adjustments to make you like them a little bit more or not hate it as much. I need this information. And do you ever think that Dragonlance will be as mainstream as Forgotten Realms? If we ever get that series or movie, is that going to push us up into the zeitgeist? Or are we just doomed to stay as a sideline setting? Let me know in the chat, live chat or comments below. I really would like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click that stupid like button. And all that goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and its content. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Chris, thanks again. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. And until next time, Slanjavar.